My name is Faye Donald. I feel like I'm in Story Corner here this evening. We've come to the coolest place that we could find at EMS HQ, and I'm going to talk to you this evening about my experience with the GBT machine, the new GBT machine. First of all, a little bit about me. I am a Swiss Dental Academy trainer. Those of you that don't know about the Swiss Dental Academy, SDA has been set up by EMS. It was founded as an education centre, and we deal with educating clinicians and patients around the benefits of guided biofilm therapy, what it can bring to the practice, what it can bring to your patients, what it can bring to you, a clinician, the research, the studies, the literature that supports all of guided biofilm therapy passes via the Swiss Dental Academy. It's a fantastic facility. We do have Swiss Dental Academy online, so if you want to look up topics, there's webinars, there's education facilities on the Swiss Dental Academy online website. You can go to that and support your patient care, patient journey, clinical journey, and GBT treatment. I am also a dental hygienist. I'm a dental hygienist before I'm anything else. I have been a dental hygienist for about 25 years now, and around about half of that time I have been practicing guided biofilm therapy. I started my career as an NHS dental hygienist. And even back then, when treatment was a lot more invasive than it is these days, I always had this sense that I wanted to be the least invasive that I could possibly be. Patient journey and patient experience has always been really, really important to me. What the patient experiences when they're in my care, how they feel during that treatment, how they feel when they leave my care, is something that's always been very close to my heart and something that I pay lots of attention to. So I've particularly been asked to speak to you about my experience, patient experience, with regard to the new GBT machine. So I'm going to focus a little bit on that for today. I've got some notes on my iPad so that I didn't forget to tell you anything. So forgive me if you see me looking down from time to time. I think we've seen some real changes in our industry in the last 25 years, certainly since I started practicing. I think we were a very reactive industry when I first got into dental hygiene. And by that, I mean, we waited for problems and we reacted to those problems, and we did it very well. It's not that we were doing something wrong, but we were waiting almost for those problems to come along. What I think's happened in the last 25 years, and certainly with my GBT journey, is we've moved into a more proactive, instead of reactive, we're now more proactive era. And what we're trying to do now is focus so much more heavily on prevention-led care. So with guided biofilm therapy, I'm not just looking at in the moment, what's happening to that patient in that moment in that chair. I'm looking at what that patient might need in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years. What are their oral health needs? What are their systemic health needs? What is that patient going to need in 10 years' time? What can I deliver today that's they're going to reap those rewards in 10 years' time, rather than just dealing with what's in front of me? And that really is what led me to guided biofilm therapy. It's minimally invasive approach. Even back in the day, I always found these very aggressive approaches that we used to do with hand scaling just too much. It always felt like we were using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. I always felt like I was doing more than perhaps I needed to do. There must be another way. There must be a simpler way. There must be an easier way. There must be a way that's kinder to me, kinder to my patient, kinder to the tooth. And that's how I got into guided biofilm therapy, when I discovered a system that aligned with my values as a clinician. Then I started to really explore what guided biofilm therapy could do, and that's where it took off. And GBT changed my life. Those of you that have followed me for a long time will know how much I love GBT. if I could take this machine home and hug it on an evening, then that's what I would do, because it changed everything. It changed my clinical working practice. It changed the experience that my patients have. So I think that what I get asked all the time, what is it that makes your patient want to come back time and again? Why is GBT different to what you used to do? And why do you think that patient cooperation is better, patient engagement is better? What makes the patients want to come back again? And I think often we focus really heavily on the technology, which is incredible, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more in a second. Of course, we've got this immense pedigree for research and development at EMS. They have the best R&D team in the world, in my opinion. I'm biased, but they really do. They put so much time and energy and effort and money into developing this technology. And we hear about it all the time, but I think sometimes we forget to think about what that actually translates to as the patient. So just park the technology for a second and think about, what does it actually mean to the patient? How does it translate? What does the patient experience? Because it's that experience that is going to bring them back time and again. So the new GBT machine has some additional features. You might have heard on previous lives or on previous YouTube videos or podcasts. Since we launched in March, there's been all sorts of energy around this machine. Its sustainability has been improved. Some of the troubleshooting issues with the first version have been eliminated and improved. The connectivity has been improved. I'll talk a bit more about that at the end. But particularly for me, it's the PASon Max that's been the biggest difference. When I was lucky enough to be asked to do a field test on this unit, I was very excited. I didn't know anything about it. So the unit was delivered and I was asked to use it the way that I always used my GBT unit. So I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know which parts had been particularly improved. I could see it looked different and that it had been simplified. The settings had been simplified, but in terms of the technology, I wasn't really sure what to expect. The PASon Max was a real surprise to me. So the PASon Max has always had this dynamic response. It's always been able to respond to the presence or absence and hardness of calculus. But that response has been improved with this version with GBT Machine. So now when the PASon PS instrument picks up and detects the calculus, it intuitively responds to the presence of that calculus, which it's always done, but now the power can increase by another 50%. So those really tenacious deposits that you might have been struggling to get rid of, now we've got this extra 50% power. What's really key is that it will only go to that 50% power if it's not removing the calculus. So it's not that it detects the calculus and then it shoots up by 50%. Keep the instrument in contact with the calculus and it will gradually increase. If that calculus is tough and it's not removing, then it'll gradually increase and increase and increase. What I would say, and what I say when clinicians come on my courses, is learn to trust the technology. I think particularly those of us that qualified quite a while ago, we were taught to be in control of those instruments, and when you felt calculus, push a bit harder, be a little bit firmer. There's a standing joke in dentistry that us dental hygienists could arm wrestle anybody under the table, and that's because we were taught to put all our energy into removing this calculus. And it's really hard to unlearn behaviour. We know this, don't we, from our patients. We can't unlearn how to ride a bike. We learn how to ride a bike, we know how to ride a bike, that's how we ride a bike. And it's really hard to unlearn, particularly, like I say, those of us that have been qualified a while, we've been doing this for years, and it's been working as well. So get yourself on a course, get yourself some hands-on training, learn how to use the PASon instrument correctly, the way that it's been designed to be used. Trust the technology, use the technology. If you let the technology do what it's been designed to do, then it's almost going to do your job for you. Your job is to find that calculus and get the instrument in contact with it. And then the instrument's going to do all the hard work for you. Technology has moved on in every industry. You think how far technology's come in the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. We are a million miles away from the instruments that we were taught and trained with 20 years ago. So we have to learn to trust this technology and trust these instruments, because they really are utter game changers, not just for us, the clinician, but for our patients as well. So when we're working more efficiently, when we're using pain-free equipment, when we're using the new GBT machine, how does all that translate to my patient? That's what I was most interested in. I think that there are 3 pillars that this exceptional patient comfort, I think there's 3 pillars that it feeds into that affect this patient, this exceptional patient comfort. So the obvious one is the patient experience, which we'll come on to, but the less obvious ones, the less direct ones, is the clinician experience. So if I'm using an instrument that's very, very efficient, as it is, then I am going to complete that task more quickly in less chair time. In the UK particularly, we have really quite short appointment times. It's not unusual for us to be seeing patients for only 30 minutes. So we've got a lot of work to do in a very short space of time. If I'm using an instrument that is more efficient, more effective, then that's going to reduce my chair time. If it reduces my chair time, then it gives me more time to spend with my patient on educating them, on motivating them, on engaging my patient. And again, going back to what effect is that going to have in 5 years and 10 years, that education that I've got time to do now is going to have an impact on that patient's future mouth and future self. So indirectly, the way that it affects the treatment, the clinician, also it's less tiring. So the less time I spend instrumenting, the less musculoskeletally I'm going to be less fatigued, less tired, little bit fresher. It means that my 5 o'clock patient's going to get the same Faye that my 8 o'clock patient gets, rather than a sort of worn out and burnt out version of myself. So indirectly, that's going to impact on the patient experience. We've also got the clinical effects. So if we use an instrument that's very efficient and treatment protocol that aligns with exceptional oral health, then that patient is going to need less of that treatment, and they're going to have their teeth for longer, they're going to have less inflammation, they're going to have better oral health, they're going to have better systemic health. So indirectly it's also affecting them from that aspect. But I think the third pillar, and the most obvious one, is what does the patient actually experience in the chair, because that is the thing that's going to get that patient coming back time and time again. They're not only looking at the way that I behave and the way that I make them feel, but what was the treatment like? And to be able to offer even the most anxious patients, so even the patients who are terrified, who come to me and say, I can't have any machine, I can't have any water spray, I can't lay back, I'm too nervous. Even those patients, I know without anxiety and with utter confidence that I can treat them pain-free. I don't use anaesthetic very often at all. I never did, but even less so since I started using the GBT machine. I didn't expect that extra 5% that it gives me in terms of patient comfort. Those patients that were really struggling with worrying about treatment, about that kind of odd area that might make them jump when you're treating them, with PASon Max, because of its dynamic response, because of the way that it's been designed, patients aren't feeling that sensitivity at all anymore. So I can treat them with complete confidence. Like I said, because the treatment time is shorter, I've got more time to spend with them, engaging with them, building rapport with them. It's not just about educating and motivating them, it's about having time to remember that that patient was going on holiday, or remember that that patient's daughter was leaving home, or they were having their first grandchild, or whatever it might be. All of that is part of that rapport and part of that patient experience. And if I've got a system that frees up time, because it's working so efficiently, frees me up to have those conversations and to engage with those patients, there's always something we can talk to patients about. And I'll spread it out over visits. It's not necessarily that all of this happens in one visit. So You know, I might have time to talk about menopause, I might have time to talk about diet, about lifestyle choices, about systemic health, whatever it is that hooks that patient in and gets them talking to me. If I've got time to do that, knowing that I'm still going to do a really efficient job on the patient, then I'm going to be happy. The patient's feedback probably was the most surprising. I wasn't expecting to hear them say that they felt nothing. So I had some patients saying things like, it didn't feel like you were touching my teeth, it doesn't sound as loud, I didn't feel any pain. I love it when I get a patient in who tells me how uncomfortable previous hygiene has been, or how much they dread the hygienist, how much they dread coming in, how much they hate seeing the hygienist or they hate seeing the dentist, because I know with complete confidence I'm going to completely turn these patients around. And the GBT machine has allowed me to do that. It's just the next level on, like the next technology, a version of anything is updated, it's the next version of that and the next level of patient comfort and patient care. So for me as a clinician, I remain utterly loyal to what GBT brings to those appointments in terms of patient care, patient looking after the tooth, and looking after me, the clinician, as well. I'm definitely less fatigued and a little bit happier when I've got GBT in my life. Let me just check I haven't forgotten to tell you anything. Yes, I think that's what I wanted to say about patient care. The other thing I would just like to mention is the connectivity that's been built into the new GBT machine. So connectivity in this new machine means that I can get patient by patient feedback if I want to, or day by day feedback. I can log into the My EMS account and I can have a look, how much time did I spend on PASon, how much time did I spend on airflow, how much powder did I use, what settings did I find I needed. It's a really good way for me to regulate myself, to check how I'm doing, maybe how I could do better. But also what I've started doing with some patients is writing in their notes how much time I spent with PASon and how much powder I used and how much time I spent on airflow. And it's really nice in 3 months and 6 months to review those numbers and to be able to go into it's just press a button and I can read what I did with that patient. And it's really nice to be able to say to them, the first time I saw you, it took me 8 minutes to remove the calculus. This time it's only taken me 3 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever the numbers are. I'm making the numbers up, but whatever they might be. And it's really good to be able to give patient that feedback, because we can congratulate them on that. If the amount of time I'm spending removing calculus is reducing, that means the patient is doing something better at home. And the same with airflow. It didn't take me as long to disrupt all the biofilm. That means it wasn't as mature, it wasn't as thick, it wasn't as difficult to remove. We use less powder, we use less time. So let's have a look at other areas where we might be able to improve on things for you. So for me, that connectivity, it's great to regulate myself, look where I can improve, but also to use it as a feedback tool for the patients as well, which patients love feedback. It's why we give bleeding scores, it's why we give plaque scores, and to give them that next level of feedback in terms of what I did inside the mouth just engages them a little bit more as well. So if you have got any questions that you want to ask me, then I'm open to answering any of your questions. I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into where the GBT comes into play in terms of patient care. And of course, that helps in terms of building business and building your books up, those of you that might be struggling. So if you've got any questions, then the team behind the cameras are going to ask them. I don't know if there are any questions. If you want to know more about it, please come along to the courses. Get yourself on the Swiss Dental Academy online website, and the courses are all listed there. Come and meet with the SDA trainers. We've got study clubs that you can come to as well and connect with us. We've got micro learning, we've got all sorts of resources for you, but come and get some hands-on training, because learning how to use that instrument is key to delivering the best care that you possibly could deliver. Have we got any questions, team?
So we got one question from Instagram. So it's from Dental Hygiene Hub. Thanks for your question. Faye, do you get great feedback on the warmer water?
Oh, yeah. I think the warm water is probably the thing that patients mention more than anything else. It's the particularly new patients, patients that we've been seeing for ages have forgotten that it used to be cold water, but new patients is probably the thing that they mention the most. I would say we work with dental assistants in the UK, other parts of the world. I know you don't always work with dental assistants, but having your dental assistant trained correctly, so bring them along to the courses as well, in where they position the aspirator is very important, because sucking that cold air up the aspirator can make things feel colder than they should do. If the aspirator is positioned correctly, then the patient will feel the effects of the warm water. And yeah, like I say, it's the thing they mention the most. I think the warm water really does make a difference to them.
Okay, thanks. I don't
Any more questions?
see other questions for now, so let's maybe wait a couple of more
Who's turn?
seconds.
Who wants to ask me the next question before I go home and get a flight back to the UK? I'm in lovely warm Switzerland today. It's beautiful. A little bit too warm. We've got the air conditioning on, actually. It's boiling out here today. No, we good? Okay, so if you've got any more questions, you can always message me. You can come on the GBT user Facebook group. We'll always answer your questions there. You can message me or get in line on Swiss Dental, get in touch on Swiss Dental Academy online. Thank you for listening.